Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Real Steel, where we talk all things Pittsburgh Steelers. No BS, just the real steel. I am your host, Jeff. I am joined by my co-host, Polt. And Polt, Pittsburgh Steelers pick up another win in New England. We have differing opinions of how we think this game went.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it was a great game. I wouldn't even say it was a good game, but we survived 21-14. The W in that column, I think, is really what matters here against an AFC team. So, initial reactions, thoughts, how you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you said that. I mean, we know we get tired of the Tomlin record talk, but I mean, this is a results laden business, and getting the win and being 2-1 is far better than being in the Patriots' position of being 1-2 and getting that loss. So, yeah, it might not have been the prettiest product on the field, but a win's a win, and we gutted it out. And we haven't won in New England in 17 years. So the
Wow.
fact that we were able to win in New England, I thought was a big win, and we kind of talked about that last week. So, yeah, might not have been pretty, but it was a big win, bigger than you
No,
think.
that's. I mean, that's fair, right? And I think it's been we haven't beat New England in the last three games, so this is our first
Right.
first win in a while. The 7 years I didn't know about. I
I think it's
mean, heck,
17
17.
in
Jeez.
New England. In New
In
England,
New
yeah,
England, yeah. I mean, as a Steelers fan, I'm haunted by the Patriots, right?
yeah,
Like, I mean, it sucks. So it's playing them all the time. So it's good to get a win, regardless of how it was. I've
yeah.
stomached some of it in the moment. I was
Good.
getting really frustrated, and I gotta say, one thing that was just wild for me right off the bat is I remember sitting on the couch first quarter. I watched the Patriots fumble it. I watched us score a touchdown on our opening drive. I watched New England punt it into the second quarter. We got a touchdown. We went up 14-0. And I looked right over to Patty and I said, "Man, I know I'm saying this way too soon and it won't happen. But wouldn't it be awesome if
You
this
jinxed
was
us.
like a stress-free game where we could just sit here and enjoy it?" And sure enough, we didn't score points for a while longer. Pats got seven more on the board. They finally knotted it up in the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
We ultimately got our game-winning touchdown later in the fourth quarter, and again won this game 21-14. But it was, oh man, it was stressful to say the least during that middle chunk of the game for me. And defense forced five turnovers, and I think we had five sacks. So some could say it was a great game by the defense, but we let up a lot of yards, and it seemed like we weren't getting off the field unless we made a turnover. Like it seemed like there were very few
yeah.
times. How many times did New England punt in this game? Not at all. They didn't punt once. They punted once in the first quarter, and that was it. So it was just weird. Where do you want to go with this? Do you want to start by talking with the offense, or should we? I mean, I feel like this is a defense game
Go
to
ahead.
talk more
Yeah,
so
we
than
could
anything.
dive into the defense. They went for it 5 times on fourth down. They were 6 of 13 on third down and 4 of 5 on fourth down. I think I'm trying to find the tweet here, but I know I saw we were like the worst defensive team statistically on third and fourth down getting off the field, and I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure something about that. It's like usually over 7 yards or
yeah,
more, like yards to be gained. So yeah, I mean I'm with you there. They definitely need to get off the field better. And this has definitely been a theme. Sorry, I just said definitely 4 times in a row there, but they need to get off the field way more, especially in those third and long, fourth and long scenarios, and they have really struggled with it. So, I mean, I can't disagree with that comment. And
yeah.
actually, I
Thank
just
God
found it 60% success rate.
for the opposing team.
Yes.
Opposing teams. Yeah, I mean, dude, when you look at the stat sheet and you see that New England converted four of five fourth downs, I remember
Yeah.
I texted you at one point when it was a third and 13 and they got 12 and a half yards and they went
Yeah.
for it on fourth and one, they got it. There was also that time where New England went for it on like their own 20-yard line on fourth down and they got it. I don't know if it was the same drive. I think it was the same drive, or if not, it was very close in sequence. But it was a third and 12, a third and 10, and a third and 13, and they ended up converting all of those.
Yep.
So our defense has to be doing something better there to be able to get off the field. Like you look at this on the stat sheet, 26 first downs for the Patriots, 6 of 13 on third down, but of those seven that they didn't get, five of them they went for and they converted four of those. So 4 or 5 on fourth downs.
Yeah.
They ran like 30% more plays than we did. They had 369 yards compared to our 200, and then they outpossessed us. Maybe it's not as big as I thought it was, 33 minutes to 27 minutes, but um, New England was on the field for a while, and I think this, like, to me, brought back the bad memories of previous seasons where it felt like our defense was on the field for a very long time, and then our offense would get on and they couldn't do anything, and
Yeah.
then the defense would come right back on, and it was leaning and relying on that defense. Now again, the defense held up their end of the deal, right? They had 5 turnovers and they had 5 sacks, so that they won us the game single handedly. There's no question about that. But it was in some ways hard to watch almost.
Yeah, I think it was an easier wash than the last couple weeks, or at least
I don't
defensively.
know.
The Jets game we couldn't stop them at all. The Seahawks game, I feel like they just torched us the entire second half. This game, yeah, they drove on us, but they also, we kept turning the ball over, and you could call it opportunistic, you could call it this or that, but they gave up 14 total points after giving up like 370 yards, and 5 turnovers and 5 sacks is a really good showing from a defense, including, like, you could call it, like, people, I know you said it, people have said it online too, that, like, it was lucky that they fumbled 4 times. But I don't think it was lucky when all the defensive players after the game are saying how on film they knew they fumbled the ball, and
Yeah,
they were purposely attacking the ball, punching it out, ripping at it, all that kind of stuff, and made some really, really big plays in some timely manners. Yeah, definitely opportunistic, but I think it was a step in the right direction. I really do. I think that they took a step forward with some pretty big injuries. Darius Slay goes down pretty early in the game. So Brandon Eccles is playing because Joey Porter Jr. is out, and Eccles is more of a slot guy. He now had to play outside the whole game, and they definitely attacked him. He talked about that after the game, that he said he would have attacked himself too. That happens. Cole Holcomb's playing like real snaps for the first time
yeah.
in 2 years. Derek Harmon finally comes back. There was some guys that stepped up that were put in some pretty tough spots. Jabril Peppers, his first real game action, first defensive snap. So I thought the defense took the right step, and for once, I'm going to actually say I thought there was some decent coaching decisions on the defensive side of the ball. And it feels like it's been 2 or 3 years since I've been able to say that. But I think they made some decisions coming into this game with some personnel changes, and it actually made a really big impact.
That's fair. I think my biggest gripe is the third and the fourth down bit of this.
Sure.
Like,
No, and that needs
there
to get better.
there is no reason why you should be playing your corners 10 yards off the ball,
I
or
agree.
10 yards off the line of scrimmage, on a down like that, where you know that they're going to come up and try to pick up 7-8 yards if they're going to go for it on fourth down. So
Yeah, I
um,
agree.
I have my gripes there, and I think that's what made it frustrating for me. But like you said, knowing the personnel that was playing, I think they did really make some good moves, and I think we got to talk about some of these guys, right?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and not to, I don't want to spoil if we're going to do any balls of steel here, so we don't have to give that away. But a lot of really, valuable moments from a lot of these guys. Derek Harmon, I think, had an incredible, first game, and it seems like, hey, maybe he is part of the reason that things were a little bit different.
Yeah.
We've been saying the first 2 weeks it's going to be great when we ultimately have him. I'm sure you'll probably have some stats to read on him, but Cole Holcomb right off the bat, third in terms of team tackles for the team, and definitely played a key role. Jabril Peppers, he was my bold prediction last week. I don't know if I'd say he had a game-winning play, but he certainly had a play that
Yeah.
made a huge role in the outcome of this game with a turnover.
Yeah.
Um, talk about old reliable finally stepping up with TJ Watt and with Cam Hayward, right? I saw something that said those two, their stats together. See if I can find it here. And Nick Herbig in the
Herbig
fourth
was great
quarter,
too.
4 pressures, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble for Nick Herbig just in the fourth quarter. So
Yeah.
really, really good stuff by some of the key players of this team, and some of these other guys like Cole Holcomb and Jabril Peppers and Derek Harmon really stepping into it.
Yeah, and I feel like that's important we should maybe point all that out, so it does say Darius Slay played 85% of the snaps. So maybe he did play more than I thought. I thought he got hurt at one point in time. Maybe he ended up playing more than I expected. But Brendan Eccles was out there 84% of the snaps, playing a lot. And it's important to say that Chuck Clark led the safeties in snaps at 76%. But Jabril Peppers at a 58% right behind him, and Thornhill stepped back to 39%. That was the first big move they did. They played Jabril Peppers a lot more than Juan Thornhill, and I think it helped in the run game. Then we talked about Derek Harmon, 47% of the snaps in his first game back, or his first game from injury, 1 sack, 3 pressures, run game limited to 2.2 yards per carry when he was in the game. I mean, those are pretty good stats for a guy, first of all, coming off an MCL sprain and in his first ever game action in the NFL. I think he showed why they took him in the first round and why they were so excited about him. And then you mentioned Cole Holcomb playing 50% of the snaps when Peyton Wilson only played 47%. I thought Holcomb actually made a difference in the run game as well. We've been talking about it. Peyton Wilson he seems a step slow in coverage and against the run, and I feel like Holcomb really he stepped up and made some plays for us. So I think those three decisions there, the improvements of Y.A. Black and a couple other guys, Patrick Queen's continuing to play well. I think those were really big moments or really big guys for us in this game.
Yeah, and I found those stats, by the way. TJ Watt, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, 2 QB hits, 1 forced fumble, and a fumble recovery. And then Cam Hayward, 5 tackles, 1.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble, a tip pass, and a QB hit. So these are big moments for these guys to finally step up. I think TJ has probably been hearing a lot of chatter how he didn't have a sack in 6 games and showed up big with 2. Cam Hayward with the whole money thing, and so it was great to again see those guys pop. But I like how you mentioned some of the guys like Brandon Eccles and again Jabril Peppers. I think really special moment for him to kind of be able to come into Gillette, play the way he did with a turnover. So that I am really pleased with from the defensive side of the ball. Again, where I would like to see the most improvement is on these 3rd and longs and these
I agree.
turnover on down potential plays that just didn't go our way for one way or the other.
Yeah, and I mean I think why also I'm saying this is an improvement because they gave up 182 yards on the ground in the first week, 117 last week, 119 this week, but of that 119, 45 of it was from Drake May. And I do feel like a lot of those were scrambles or these long 3rd downs that we're talking about. But the hard-nosed, let's line up and run the ball against you, they weren't successful. Travion Henderson had 11 carries for 28 yards. Antonio Gibson had 7 for 28, and Ramondre Stevenson had 4 for 18. So it's not like those guys the running backs were running on us, and I think that's a big step forward for us because now we can start dialing in the secondary maybe and not have to be so concerned about stopping the run and putting everything we can into that. And I do agree, actually, now thinking about it a little bit more, seeing it a little bit more, Ramsey's playing all over the place. They can't get their full secondary back. These guys didn't really play snaps in the preseason together. Ramsey's only been here since June. I do think there are some things they're trying to work through in the secondary, and I am really hopeful that they can start to get better every week and eventually be that shutdown defense that they want to be.
Yeah, I hope so.
I think there's signs of it.
Sure. I mean, there's been all this talk, right? Preseason, we're going to be the best defense, in the league. We're going to be the best defense we've seen in a long time. And maybe there were some flashes of it. I mean, hey, 5 turnovers and 5 sacks in a game is huge. Now, granted, you're not playing, the Baltimore Ravens. You're not playing the Kansas City Chiefs, whatever. But sure. I mean, that's a statement there from the defense. And for the way the game went. With New England converting on all those and our offense not putting up too many points, it was good for us to have that performance, and maybe there are some signs, so that's exciting. I'll give you that.
Yeah. Oh no, it was not a great defensive game by any means, but I thought it was good enough, and I mean 5 turnovers is awesome.
For sure. Anything else you want to cover on the defense?
No, I don't think so. I think that's pretty much it.
So let's real quick, as we always do, hit special teams, and then we can talk a little bit more about the offense. This actually, I think I found a stat somewhere on X that I'm trying to go back and find that said this was the first Steelers win without a Chris Boswell field goal in a long time. We've only had a couple of them.
Second time since 2021 that we won a game without a Chris Boswell field goal.
There you go. So
You know what
pretty
the other game
rare.
was?
I don't.
The
No.
Commanders game that we were at last year.
Oh, no shit.
Those are
Wow.
the
Okay.
only two games in the since 2021 that we've won without a
Interesting.
field goal.
Very interesting. So Boz 3 for 3 on his extra points. Corwus Waitman, 4 punts, 42.3 average. There was a punt that brought down that average
I
that
agree.
pissed me off to none other.
All right, I was
Um,
glad you brought it up. I should have known you were gonna know. You were gonna say something.
and this will transition us a little bit into the offense here because boy oh boy, I was really, really freaking pissed off when we punted inside of New England territory. That was like next level frustration.
Yeah,
I'm
we were
trying
on
to,
the 43-yard line.
yeah, and why the
It was a
hell after
25-yard punt.
can kick a 60-yard field goal, you don't even give him the chance to do it. And oh, by the way, do you know what the score was at that time in the game? It was 14-14 with 12 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, and the last drive that New England had was like 7 minutes long.
Yes,
So you're basically playing, we're going to punt the ball here. We think our defense is good enough to stop them, but New England might be able to run down for 8 or 9 minutes and get a touchdown, and we're going to have a 2 minute drill to go down and tie the game and go to overtime. That's probably not what was running through Mike Tomlin's head, but that's what ran through my head. And the fact that you're not able to make a ballsy call to not even ballsy on the 43-yard line to go for that would be what a 58-yard field goal, like that probably wouldn't even hit
70, yeah, or 60. It was 60. It would have been
maybe,
60.
but still, like I was baffled. Like that made me yell at the TV. That was the worst thing that happened.
I That's
To me,
crazy. That's the worst thing that happened. But
to me, yeah.
I'm with you. I didn't really think about this in this perspective. I'm glad you said it like this. They did just give up. New England just went 88 yards in 8 minutes and 44 seconds to tie the game up at 14. So
Yep.
yeah, the defense had forced three straight turnovers, but they just gave up an 88-yard, almost 9-minute drive to tie up the game. And then you can answer with some points to get the lead back, and he refused and was scared to do it. So yeah, I mean we see this time and
Especially
time
when I
again.
thought we were done with this bullshit. I thought that the 58 and the 60 that Boz had was like, okay, we're not going to mess around anymore. Like, why would we? We're always
Yeah,
going to let this guy get a chance. I mean, if it's a 65-yarder, like I can see you being like, all right,
sure.
maybe now's not the best time. But weather looked pretty darn good to me there. I don't think it was windy. I don't
No.
think there was anything that would lead us to believe that Boswell was not at the top of his game. So um, that was the most frustrating point in the game for me, hands down. That was a text in all caps screaming for it. Like, you got it. I was like,
Yeah, yeah,
like coward. Mike Tomlin is
yeah.
a coward there. I do not understand because you go back, and if something happens on that punt or they return it or they do that long sustained drive and you go down, you're now playing from behind for the first time in this game. And it's a great time to talk about the offense because we put points on the board on our first two drives with two really great drives,
Looked
8 plays,
great.
54 yards on the opening drive, and then into the second quarter, 12 plays, 90-yard drive to go up 4-0. But past that, punt, interception, punt, the punt that we're talking about, and then we finally get a touchdown to go up 21-14. So
Yeah.
the offense in the middle portion of this game was just I wouldn't say abysmal, but they weren't clicking. Like they were not on. And that was frustrating. So again, when the opportunity for points comes up, I would have went for it.
Yeah, I mean it's tough because we only had the ball for I think like 2 minutes in the entire second quarter, which makes it really hard. You get in that great rhythm in the first quarter, two touchdown drives, and then you have one possession in the rest of the second quarter, and obviously that kind of stifled them. It was a 3 and out, and I mean they had a 7-minute drive where they fumbled at the end zone, or they had the interception in the end zone, and then a 5 minute touchdown drive. So like the offense just didn't touch the ball in the second quarter. But then the third quarter, yeah, I mean the interception, the couple three and outs, it just the offense was not clicking. And I know that Rodgers came through. Rodgers and the offense came through when it mattered most, and they were able to go on that long touchdown drive in the fourth quarter to seal the deal and win the game. But yeah, I'm with you. It was Strugglesville, and the run game was not great. But that's what was weird. The first two drives, like the run game was good.
Yeah.
Like there were holes. Jalen Warren was able to get like break some pretty big runs, and everything was looking good. And then it just stopped, and I don't know why.
Totally. Go back and look at Jalen Warren's stat sheet. 18 carries for only 47 yards. That's 2.6
Yeah,
in terms of an average, which really, really isn't good. Kenneth Gainwell had 4 carries for 16 yards. He had the touchdown. Both of them did have a long run over 10 yards. Jalen's his long was 11. Kenneth Gainwell's was 13. So there was that one or two kind of explosive, so to say, type runs. But
yeah,
outside of that, and again, outside of those first two drives, it really went stale. So that was a big component to it. Aaron Rodgers didn't look bad, but he didn't look sharp. 16 of 23 for only 139 yards, 2 touchdowns, which we do have to say, pretty cool to have him move into solo fourth place for
yeah.
most touchdown passes of all time. He was tied with Brett Favre and moved into first place. Did have an interception, but we got to talk a little bit about the receivers here and our tight ends and the fact that Jalen Warren was our leading receiver in this game with 5 catches and 34 yards. DK and Calvin only had 3 catches themselves, 3 to Jonnu Smith, 1 to Kenneth Gainwell, 1 to Pat Freiermuth. So you only have 6 different guys getting involved on the receiving side of things. And, I think we've talked about maybe past couple games or other games where you have 8, 9 guys getting involved. And so
Yeah.
it wasn't really the opportunity to spread the ball around. I read something that said, outside of our 1 and 2, DK and Calvin Austin, our wide receiver room has like 2 catches on the year. One of them was the Ben Skoranek touchdown, and I don't know who made the other one. I'd have to see who it
Roman
was.
Wilson, I
Roman
believe.
Wilson, 1 catch. Yeah. So um, weird showing here from the on the receiving side of the ball. But I think what we can't complain about here is our offensive line. We had a pretty solid showing from the offensive line in terms of pressures allowed and what this team did. Aaron Rodgers wasn't sacked in this game.
Yeah, for the first time as a Steeler. But I mean, I will say, it still looks like they don't trust the offensive line, right? We're not doing any kind of long developing plays. We're not running routes that take time to get open. We're not really trusting the offensive line to hold up in pass protection. And I'm pretty sure that the Patriots were leading the league in sacks coming in with 9, I think is what the number was. So to have no sacks given up is a really good outing, but I do think that was a big takeaway I had, that it was all quick passing game. I mean, look at these numbers are crazy. Jalen Warren 5 for 34, Kenneth Gainwell 1 for 10, Calvin Austin 3 for 34, DK Metcalf 3 for 32, Johnny Smith 3 for 23, Fryermuth 1 for 6. We didn't have a guy over 34 yards in the game
Right.
receiving, and we only threw
Right.
for 139 on 16 completions. It kind of reminded me of the Kenny Pickett days, right, where we throw passes and get no yardage out of it because we were just throwing them to the line of scrimmage. And I do think that is a proponent of them not trusting the offensive line just yet. But again, kind of like I said about the defense, I do take this as a step forward. I mean, no pressures. It's going to make them feel better. And they did definitely block better. It's just we gotta start getting into our offense a little bit more, because we're way too simple, and it's way too easy to defend us. And obviously we struggled on Sunday, and we can't keep struggling like this. 139 pass yards, 203 total yards just is not very good.
Yeah, and it'll be a challenge. We have an interesting game coming up. I don't want to steal anything from the preview here, but the Minnesota Vikings, who we play in Dublin, they've just had 2 defensive touchdowns, put up a really great showing. Granted, against some backups with Joe Burrow being out in Cincinnati, but
Yeah.
it's going to be a tough defense to play against for Aaron Rodgers in this offense. So we'll see what ultimately they're able to make of it. We can preview that in a moment, but.
Yeah.
Um, what else do you want to comment on from this game?
Yeah, it's just interesting. Like they aren't. I mean, I'm with you. There's only two catches outside of the top two receivers, but like Roman Wilson only played 9 snaps. Ben Skoranek only played 4 snaps. Scotty Miller only played 4 snaps. They're not really playing their third and fourth and fifth receivers very much because they're playing Jonnu Smith 83% of the snaps and Pat
Hmm.
Freiermuth 70% of the
Fair,
snaps. But
fair.
but my comment to that is, though, why are these guys not more involved in the game? Like, in my opinion, they don't seem involved. Like, we don't really use Johnny. We don't really use Pat Freiermuth. We barely use Darnell Washington. Like, I thought Arthur Smith was really excited to get this tight end room, and we're playing a lot of 12 and 13 personnel, but why are they not involved like in the game more is my question. And why is DK Metcalf only getting 4 targets and three
Right.
catches? Like, I
Yep.
think we need to start scheming up him to get him the ball. We got to get the ball in his hands. We got to give him better routes to run so he can get open, and we got to get these tight ends involved. And I think we're doing a really poor job with that. And I think that's part of our struggle. Just nobody fears what we're doing, and I think we need to start taking advantage of these mismatches that we were so excited about before the year started. I think we got to start like using those to our advantage.
Yeah, no, great points. I mean, there's a communication component to this. It's, you're
Yeah,
still 3 weeks in. Your offense hasn't fully gelled. Like Aaron Rodgers didn't have,
true.
multiple seasons, the entire offseason to work with these guys. This is the first time that Calvin Austin is like really stepping into that number two role. DK is your brand new number one. John, who's a
Right.
new
That's a
guy.
good point.
We're using, Darnell Washington, even if he's not as involved on the stat sheet,
He's
at least in the
blocking.
snap count percentage, he is a lot more than he has been. So,
And
um,
Jalen Warren's a first time RB1.
right, right. So
Kenneth Gainwell's new.
I look for improvement here on the offensive side of the ball,
That's fair.
which I hope we get. You saw flashes of it, right? Rodgers can still sling it if the offensive line continues to gel and work a little bit better. Like that's got to be, like you said, such a big confidence booster to not let up any
Yeah.
sacks against the Patriots, who came in, as you said, as the leading or one of the leading teams in terms of sacks. So definitely like onwards and upwards, hopefully.
Yeah.
Um, but there's I would say some reason for alarm and concern, but I don't think we need to be panicking yet.
Yeah.
Um, and again, I go back to I don't think this was a good game or a great game. I know you differ and say, hey, it's a really solid win for us, but at the end of the day, we're 2-1, and you have 2 wins now against AFC teams, so that's great for the Steelers.
Yeah, and I mean, to kind of put a bow on it, I think I saw this online and I really appreciated it and liked it. The last, like, couple times in the last few years, we think back to the COVID year, we think back to 1 or 2 years ago when we started these seasons really, really strong. 11-0 during that, I think that COVID time, and 10-3 last year or whatever it was. And then we collapsed. That's what we always talk about. In December, end of the year, we always collapse. Well, this year it seems to be the exact opposite. We seem to be coming out of the gates pretty darn slow and not really hitting our stride just yet. Maybe we're
Hmm.
going to hit our stride later in the year in November and December and be able to rattle off some wins and not absolutely collapse because we have these veteran guys still trying to get used to it. And if that's what happens this year, I think we all would be thrilled because all we want is not to collapse in December and January.
Correct.
And if we're just going to continue to get better and better every single week and improve what we're doing and if we make improvements every week, I'll be happy. So I think that's the kind of the glass half full approach I'm trying to take with this. There's definitely signs on the offensive side of the ball of improvement, but there's also some struggles. So we gotta just tidy it up. And I really think to look forward a little bit, like you said, we have Minnesota this week, and then we have a bye week, and that gives us a little bit more time to maybe figure out some of these problems, maybe get a couple guys healthy, and maybe come out of the bye in week 6 and really get rolling. So that's
For
kind of
sure.
the approach or the way the positive thought process I'm trying to tell myself.
Yeah, yeah, manifest it. Good wrap up. Let's do some balls and let's do
Yeah,
some jacks. You want to start negative and then end on a higher note?
yeah, you can go first. I'm struggling on who to give my jag to.
Okay, so I'm gonna give my jag off not to one player, but I'm also not gonna go to a coach or somewhere. I'm gonna give it to a group of players, and I'm gonna give it to our wide receiver room, for the reasons that we talked about. In
Yeah,
that, they had 6 total catches on the day. Granted, some of this is not necessarily their fault in terms of the scheme and the plays that are being designed and the plays that are being called. But I go back to something that you actually mentioned on our last episode, and our leading receiver right now for the year is Jalen Warren. He has 142 yards through the air, and that ranks, if you're curious, out of everyone in the NFL, 46th.
Oh my gosh.
If you want to know where DK Metcalf is, you have to be on ESPN.com and hit the show more button past 50. DK Metcalf is 56th with 135 yards. And if you want to know where Calvin Austin is, you got to scroll down even farther. He's 67th. So the fact that our running back, our first running back is our leading receiver, barely inside of the top 50, and the next two guys are 56 and 67. That's not a strong showing through the first 3 weeks, in my opinion,
No.
especially when you know that Calvin Austin is a guy that can do great things with the deep ball. DK also can do great things with the deep ball, but really versatile, and we should be definitely, forcing the ball into his hands. So
Yeah.
because they kind of showed up in the same way that they have been, and we haven't seen anything flashy there, I'm going to give my jag off of the week to the wide receiver room.
Yeah, I love that. I think this week's tough for to single out a single person, right? I considered Aaron Rodgers because I just didn't think he played well. And you said your most disappointing moment was the no field goal. That interception to Robert Spillane
That's fair.
was miserable. Like, I don't even
That's
know what he was doing. And for that, I almost gave him the jag off. But that last drive and those 3 touchdowns drives really, I thought was good enough to get him not the jag off. I think I'm going to give it to Peyton Wilson. And not that he maybe necessarily had a really bad game on the stat sheet, but that second touchdown pass, that 16-yard pass to Hunter Henry down the middle, I mean, there was obvious communication issues between him and Patrick Queen. And I think he was the one at fault, considering he doubled up a receiver that there was already a corner on. And it just, he spoke really highly of himself being like this really stud pass defending linebacker, and he's just not been that this year. And I don't know if it's the step into the starting role or the added pressure of being a starting linebacker is making him struggle. But I think he's regressed a little bit, at least the first 3 weeks. And Cole Holcomb really stepped in and shined. I think or did his job a little bit better than Peyton Wilson did the last 2 weeks. So I'm going to give it to Peyton Wilson. I don't know how deserving that is, but I think it's worth mentioning.
Well, good point. I mean, sometimes some of these are a little bit more challenging than others. For what it's worth, Peyton Wilson's second team in totals, but
Yeah.
tackles in total for the team. But that doesn't necessarily mean everything, right? So
No.
that's a good one to kind of throw into the mix there. Okay, let's move on to our balls of steel. I
Go
I
ahead.
hope I'm not taking yours.
Nope, you're
And
not.
if okay, well,
I have
don't know
I
what
have
you're
three
gonna
I
do.
could do.
Some wild stuff. Okay, I'm gonna give mine to Brandon Eccles.
Sweet.
Brandon Eccles, I think, really came up big in this game in a few different moments. Fourth on the team in tackles with 6 total, so a good showing there. He, of course, had that interception inside of the red zone, and he made the game-winning tackle on 4th down in open
Amazing
field,
tackle.
which was a great tackle when you're playing on a defense that leads the NFL in missed tackles. So Brandon Eccles, a guy who came in and is getting time because Joey Porter Jr. is hurt, as you mentioned, typically a slot corner and had to play outside throughout this game. So I was just really happy to see a guy like Brandon Eccles step up, and kudos to number 26 because that was a really good showing from him. Even if he got targeted a lot, and there were some plays that maybe he didn't make, he showed up big where it mattered, and I think he played a large role in how and why we won this game. So Brandon Eccles is going to get my balls of steel.
Yeah, you weren't taking mine because I already assumed you were going there. I don't know why, but I
Really?
thought that's where you were going. Yeah, so I actually looked elsewhere, and I think I'm going to give it to T.J. Watt, and I think it's because of how bad and how loud it's been about him the last couple of weeks. For him to come back and have 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, 2 QB hits, a forced fumble, and a fumble recovery. He had that big fourth down run on by Drake May where he got held blatantly and
Yeah.
was really, really animated about it. And then the next play, Nick Herbig had the forced fumble and he recovered it. And, he's taunting the ref and Drake May. Like, I felt like he was a huge part in this game. And they finally didn't triple team him. I don't even know if they were really double teaming him that much, and he made an impact. And it was good to see him come back because if we're going to be a good football team, we're going to need T.J. Watt to do this kind of stuff. So him stepping back up and finally getting on the stat sheet, I think was great. So T.J.'s going to get my balls of steel.
Love it. Good balls there. I consider TJ as well, so I got no issues with that. So let's jump in and preview the Vikings game. Before we do, I think we should share our news in terms of after the Minnesota game, the Steelers will be on a bye, but they are not the only ones who will
No.
be on a bye, and we're going to be on a little bit more of a longer duration bye here. So if you've made it this far, we appreciate you, as always for listening, but we are going to be out for, I think 3 weeks, right? Is that what it
Yeah.
is? So Polt, you're going to Dublin for
Yep.
this game,
Yep.
which is awesome. And I'm actually going on my honeymoon to South Africa right after or kind of right when you're coming back.
Right.
So we're not going to be able to recap the Vikings game. Then we have our bye week, which is good timing for us,
Great
fortunately.
timing.
We have the Browns that we play on Sunday the 12th.
Which I'll actually be at that game too.
Okay, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And then we have a Thursday night football game in
Yep.
Cincinnati. So we will be most likely having our next episode after that Cincinnati Bengals game. So that's essentially 4 weeks of the season
Yeah.
since we have the bye week and we have that early game on that Thursday. But we have 3 games that we will not be talking to you all for. So with that, let's talk a little bit about the Vikings game, maybe what we see in the bye and into the next 2 games, because we know a little bit about the Browns and we know a little bit about the Bengals without Joe Burrow. So let's start here with the Vikings, and we can tie a bow on this for a few weeks until we talk next.
Yeah.
That sounds good. So Minnesota Vikings 2-1. The big story here with this game, as we all know, is this is going to be overseas in Dublin, Ireland. So 9:30 kickoff for those of you who are on the East Coast. Central Time is 8:30. I know we have some listeners there, and it probably just gets worse. I shouldn't say probably. It does just get worse with a 7:30 and a 6:30 kickoff if you're
Yeah.
Mountain Time or out west. But Polt, you're going to be there. How freaking stoked are you? I mean, this is awesome.
Dude, I mean, I wish the game going into it was a little bit more exciting to get me juiced up. I am I'm a tad bit worried about the game, but just to go overseas, and we know what the kind of impact the Roonies have had on Ireland and the impact the Steelers have on Ireland. I'm really excited to see Dublin and see Dublin just excited for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I think it could be a really good game. So yeah, I'm very excited. It should be a blast, and I'm looking forward to it. But I'm definitely a little worried about the game itself.
Yeah, so Vikings opened as favorites. The line has actually moved a little bit in their favor, at least according to ESPN. So they're 2.5 point favorites right now. Over underline is at 40.5. So implied scored there is what you do half and take that off. So
Yeah.
kind of again like a 21-18 type game, but just not in our favor.
Yeah.
Again, Vikings are coming off a really big win against a pretty beat up Cincinnati team, specifically with Joe Burrow being out for an extended period of time. So their defense had a really dominant showing. They won 48-10 last week against the Bengals. The week before, they did lose to the Falcons and they beat the Bears in week 1. So there's a few things that are interesting right now with the Vikings in that they lost both their starting running back and their starting quarterback, who I actually don't think was that good to begin with. So
Yeah.
last week they were Carson Wentz was at the helm, but Justin Jefferson is their big showstopper at wide receiver. Again, their defense looks like one that's pretty darn good if they were able to, pick up 2 defensive touchdowns and had a really good showing. So, what do you see in terms of stats and outlook for the game?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to mention that they do get their number two receiver back in Jordan Addison. He had a 3 week suspension for a DUI before the season. He is now back, or at least they're expecting him to play, so that's something to look out for. Yeah, I mean, Minnesota's a pretty good team on the defensive side of the ball. We know Brian Flores is their defensive coordinator. Used to coach for us for a year. Does a lot of creative stuff, so look for that to potentially be a challenge. They're sixth in the league in points scored, 30th passing the ball. Again, that's with J.J. McCarthy, who wasn't doing very much, and 12th running the ball. Defensively, though, they only give up the ninth most points, or the ninth least points. They're third against the pass and 23rd against the run. So they had some injuries on the defensive side of the ball. They got healthier last week. I think they're continuing to get healthier, so that might not be good for our offense. But yeah, I mean, Brian Flores is really creative on the defensive side, and he's going to give you a lot of different looks. I'm just hoping that Aaron Rodgers, being the veteran that he is, he's played Flores before. I'm hoping he can kind of dissect some of the disguises and maybe make them not that confusing on us and our offensive line, because the offensive line in week 2 struggled against stunts, and Brian Flores is going to stunt. So this will be a really good test to see if they did take that step forward. And then defensively on our defensive side of the ball, it's going to be all about making Carson Wentz turn the ball over. That's what he's done in his career. He's known for turning the ball over. He didn't last week against the Bengals, and they blew him out. Well, we'll see what we can make him do. We're coming off of a 5 turnover game. If we can force him into some bad situations, he might turn the ball over. We might be able to make some plays there. So that's going to be the key to the game, I think. We got to force turnovers, which is hard to say. So
Yeah, and again, small sample size with those numbers
yeah,
in terms of the stats there, but this is just a really exciting game to be part of. Something overseas and playing a game in Dublin. Lots of ties for the Rooney family, like you said, and I mean, Aaron Rodgers played against the Minnesota Vikings twice a year for the majority of his career. So
right.
I'm sure he wants a win and wants to assert his dominance over this team like he always has. So I'm excited, and it'll be interesting to start off, NFL Sunday. At 9:30 in the morning, watching the Steelers, and then kind of that game ends, and you get the 1 o'clock games afterwards. So
Yeah.
will be a full day of shenanigans. Let's hope it starts off strong and the Steelers pull out a victory. So you're going to be there. You're in person. What are you thinking for a score prediction?
I have to pick the Steelers. Like I said, I'm not feeling confident, but I think we can do it. I'm going to pick the same score as last week. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. 20-17 is what I have. I think both defenses can play a big role here, and let's see if the Steelers can pull it out.
All right, I love it. You got a bold prediction at all?
I do. I'm going to stick with that theme. Defensive, defensive, defensive. We're going to have 3 interceptions, 3+ interceptions in this game. If we don't, I mean, 3's a lot, so maybe that's really bold. Maybe I should have said 2, but I really think that's the difference in the game. So let's try to force him into some bad throws.
My bold prediction is that Chris Boswell is going to set the record for the longest kick made in a international football game.
How far is that?
I don't know, but we're going to find out.
Okay, I like that.
We're going to find out when he does it, because the announcers are going to be all over that, like white on rice. It's coming.
I like that. Your predictions have been way better than mine, so hopefully that
Predictions
happens.
have been pretty good. Predictions have been pretty good. Let's do one more prediction, since we're not going to talk for a little bit. Well, not that we won't talk, but since we
Yeah.
won't be having any episodes. 5-1 by the time we talk next. Is that a realistic possibility?
I don't think so.
Okay.
And here's my reason why. I think our next 2 games are pretty tough games, actually. I know it's the Vikings with the backup quarterback. I know it's the Browns, who are the Browns, and I know it's the Bengals with the backup quarterback. But we have to go to Cincinnati in that 3rd game on a Thursday night. That's always tough. And the
Sure.
week before against the Browns, I mean, you see this Browns team, they just beat the Packers. I don't think they're a good team, but they have a very, very good defense. And if we don't get our offense rolling after the bye and we come out a little slow, they could catch us in Pittsburgh. So I think more realistically, a 4-2 type record is what I'm at least hoping for. I hope we can get 2 out of the next 3. And I think if we're 4-2, we're sitting in a pretty good spot. But I
Well,
think 4-2 is a little bit more realistic than 5-1, unfortunately.
yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, then it starts to ramp up, though, because you play Green Bay on Sunday Night
Yeah.
Football, you play the Colts, who have been a pretty darn good team, and then you go to LA, and Justin Herbert's one of the top quarterbacks in the league right now, or at least leading the league in passing yards. So tough schedule. I wouldn't say it's a gauntlet like it was to finish out the season last year,
Yeah.
but it certainly won't get any easier. So let's hope we can stack some wins here. I hope you have an awesome time in
Thanks,
Dublin.
man.
I hope we can bring home a win, and you get to actually bring home a win. Um,
That'd be
and
awesome.
and then we'll talk more after some of these Ohio games. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a good ride, and cool trips for both of us. I'm excited, and
Yeah.
we'll see where things go from there.
Yeah, maybe I'll try to be a little active on social media to give our viewers some sights of Dublin. We'll see.
All right, sounds good, man. Well, as always, we appreciate everyone listening and watching. Follow the Real Steel, and we'll talk to you guys in a few weeks after a few games. We'll be back right here to recap everything.
Here we go. Hopefully they go 3-0. Have a good
All
one.
right. Thanks,
Peace.
everyone.